Howdy, howdy, howdy. My name's Anashi Sasuke. Welcome back to Everything is Awful. In the last episode, we read, I believe, the rest of When the Day Breaks and The Broken God. So in this one, let's go do Past and Future. Okay. Kalinin's proposal. 2. Site director's list serve for his blah 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 blah. Right, there's a whole bunch of these and I just ignored them all. Urgency high. Okay, so first, Harbinger. 052 carefully arranged a surgical mask over her face, tucking the disposable fabric this way and that, ensuring that her mouth and nose were covered properly. She bent down and eased off her black pumps, exchanging them for a pair of sterile slippers. Surgical slippers. A set of gloves and a disposable cap were on the table next to her. Is this really the extended protocol for interacting with a 400-year-old man? Said the overseer as she looked down at her new shoes with disgust. You're worried about protocol at a time like this? Dr. Zhang adjusted his glasses as he examined the tablet in his hand. A time like this? What could you possibly know about that? You live in a separate world from us! That's exactly what Existential Isolation Facility Beta was designed for! 052 tucked her long silver hair under the cap, pushing individual strands away from her forehead and up underneath the protective garment. Overseers aren't supposed to be here. Should I even ask why that rule is being waived today? No, you shouldn't. She pulled the latex glove onto her hand, extenuating the end of her sentence with a tight snap. And don't. The overseer and the site director passed the rest of their time preparing in silence. A soft chime and a green icon flashing over the director's tablet indicated that the subject was ready. Dr. Zhang began to speak. 052 spoke instead. No recording devices. No one else. 052 held her security pass up to the reader on the hermetically sealed door. Latches clicked open as her card was acknowledged, air rushing past them from the positive pressurized antechamber. She looked up one last time at Dr. Zhang. I was never here. Do you understand? The site director nodded. 052 didn't bother to wait for acknowledgement as she proceeded into the main chamber. The second door sealed behind her automatically. Before her was a man in a hospital bed, at the center of a mass of tubes, wires, and specialized lifts designed to enable movement with the least possible effort. My words are all fucked up today, I'm sorry. She only knew that this was a man because she had read the file. The person before her was a shriveled husk of cobweb-thin strands of hair and translucent spotted skin. Machines registered respiration and heartbeat, assuring anyone who cared to listen that this was a living creature. She sat in a chair placed at the ancient man's side by the research staff. A speaker was wired to the bedside railing next to the man. Goodbye, SCP-411. The old man moved his lips, faint noises wheezing out of him. Captured by the small microphone next to his mouth, held in place with surgical tape. Several seconds elapsed before a monotone voice emerged from the speaker, reconstructing and interpreting his barely perceptible words. You are the first of the quiet times. Some peace and quiet, finally. 052 parsed the response. Not an answer to any questions she might ask. No causality issues yet. The monotone voice resumed. Suffering. Cruelty. The currency by which the world is purchased. Everything that you are is a reflection of this. You will remember the true nature of cruelty in time. She had to be careful now. This sounded like something. She went through the checklist of questions she had prepared, mentally forbidding herself from any desire to deviate from the script. She read aloud the question that she thought would fit the answer best. What is the price that we will need to pay for this? She didn't like the stilted manner of this conversation. 05 watched a thin stream of spittle trickle out of the corner of 411's mouth as his lips moved. She waited for the transcription. Your kind did not just appear in my path. I recognize your faces. All of my life I have seen faces like yours, not full of fear and desperation and hate like the faces of my recent years, but joy. The happiness of untroubled days, illumined by a different star. Your future is clear in my past. You have been and you will continue to be. A different star? This was consistent with the data from the newest determinative set that had been examined. The nature of how it would occur was murky, as all data from SCP-2003 were. But the possibility that escape from 001 was an option had been tantalizingly coming into focus for the past several weeks. There was a future after all. She started to speak the question to the answer. She was cut off by monotone, clipped laughter from the speaker. Something about it chilled her. She started again. 411, does humanity exist in your past? Her feelings of relief collided with the unnatural flow of the conversation. Her elation at being able to believe in another path forward was cut with something that felt like poison inside her. Nothing about this interaction felt right. Many items provided glimpses of the future. All of them distorted those events through the madman lenses of their creators, human and otherwise. The future was forbidden from the central planning process, but 052 felt the need to make an exception, given the vote that was before them tomorrow. The speaker crackled once more, breaking her thoughts. A barren rock, home to terrors beyond imagining. It is well that life has fled. It is even better that life for others continues far away from this place. Well, the next response was an easy one then. She sighed, annoyed with the rules of this game despite the awful gravity of the situation. Is there a future for humanity on Earth? That was the last non-pleasantry she had been planning on asking of the decrepit humanoid. Precious little material, but apparently an extended conversation would kill someone of this advanced age. Then they'd all be truly screwed. She decided to wait a few more moments while the time-wasted man gasped words inaudibly in his own slow time. Her vote tomorrow was decided now. She began to formulate the beginnings of the argument she would make to her peers, how she would reconcile the planet of hands. This is what we are to speak of. I am from there, you know, as are you, child. You shall know more of it in time. I am glad to be here now instead. 05 sighed. Senility hadn't been mentioned in the file, but it was certainly to be expected from someone who had racked up multiple centuries of life. A brief thought occurred that perhaps 411's other answer should be reconsidered. She banished it quickly. Any chance, no matter how slight, was better than tomorrow's proposal. She focused herself on convincing the others. Greetings, prodigal daughter. Unlike me, you'll be home soon. The ancient face on the bed twisted into something resembling a polite smile, like she had just walked in the room. That was her cue, thankfully. Greetings, SCP-411. 052 promptly stood up, turned around, and left the chamber. Okay. Back to Calibra's proposal. Now for SCP-01 PDF. Keter. From 23 December 1971 to 2 November 2016, SCP-01 was contained by the existence of SCP-2798. Based upon yesterday's cessation of SCP-2798, emergency containment measures are in effect until further notice. These measures include sustained containment efforts of anomalous phenomena by any means necessary, with priority given to those most likely to cause elevated loss of life and/or severe damage to human belief and rationality. Alright. Research into means of bringing about the sequence of events shown to be possible in the newly documented determinative set XZ. Isolation of any communication attempts with Foundation staff or civilians originating from SCP-01. Personnel are to monitor this file continuously for any future directives. Description: SCP-01 is a sapient entity, I almost said sapient. Entity or entities capable of initiating and exerting control over anomalous phenomena on Earth and in all regions of space observable thus far by modern scientific methods. SCP-01 is hostile and is believed to be motivated by a desire to cause profound distress and suffering in humanity on a planetary scale. The methodology of SCP-01 in achieving this goal appears to include undermining large-scale human institutions and specifically eroding belief in a rational consensus reality. Anomalous activity has been documented by the Foundation since its inception in blah, and evidence exists of such activity dating back to the beginnings of recorded history. However, shortly after the formal establishment of the Foundation, this activity increased sharply, and early statistical models suggested a coordinated actor behind a significant amount of documented anomalies. The presence of an agent causing this phenomenon was confirmed in 1953. Communication was received from SCP-01 by the Foundation in early 1954, demonstrating that it possessed sapience and intelligence that was sufficiently I feel like I know this word and I'm having trouble saying it right now. Analogous? Yeah, let's go with analogous. To humans to enable a meaningful transfer of information. The records of this communication are limited to level 5 clearance at this time. Upon receiving the communication from it, Project Serapis, later known as SCP-2798, was initiated. This project is believed to have interfered significantly with its ability to locate and perceive humanity and Earth during its lifetime, accounting for a sharp decline in the rate of new anomalous phenomena and fewer anomalies of a high-impact nature. With the cessation of SCP-2798, it has succeeded in locating and properly identifying the population of Earth and resumed its direct influence over anomalous activity on Earth and local environs as of November 2nd, 2016. This has taken the form of newly documented anomalies as well as the spontaneous disappearance and reappearance outside of Foundation custody of previously contained phenomena, and new iterations that have been altered to apparently cause greater amounts of difficulty in containment and heightened psychological impact upon Foundation personnel and civilians. A developing listing of altered phenomena with existing SCP designations is attached to this file. The precise nature of SCP-01 itself is unknown at this time. Available sources of information suggest that SCP-01 is alive, occupies a plane of existence either similar or identical to that observable by humanity, displays a form of intelligence organically similar to that of humans or adapted to be such, and possesses an intimate understanding of human psychology. The purpose behind SCP-01's manipulation of local reality is not discernible with current information. No means are now known of interfering directly with it. Addendum 001.1 Situational Updates February 11th of 2016. A lot of databases are compromised. Apollo 62 hosts 001 and will probably be the last to go down in the event of total collapse. Use this space to back up any bulletins you've been sending out. The organism to which SCP-058 is now in its holding area. Is anyone else able to contact Site-77? We need details ASAP. Oh, it's a month later. November 3rd, 2016 Force Readiness Report. Combat-capable forces in Zone 8. 692 personnel, 19 units. This message is automatically generated. Do not respond. Any IT folks who can see this, get those pictures of all the 439 instances of down off of Imgur now. I am trapped in my office and I cannot access any other databases. Send assistance to Area 7. Please hurry. System error. Message lost. The entirety of the Ursa Minor constellation is no longer observable in the night sky. Please update all navigation software accordingly. Requesting permission to counterattack the SCP-1000 instances occupying Blalock, Oregon. Blalock? Is that a real place? Probably a real place. We will engage in 15 minutes if we continue to receive no acknowledgement from command. Site-17 is lost. Evacuate all remaining personnel. Disregard all other communications saying otherwise. Do not send any more personnel within 100 miles. I am personally redirecting all remaining disinformation units on the continent to put a natural disaster narrative out ASAP. Nightingales 2-8. All staff are instructed to stop thinking about squids or octopi immediately. Staff overseeing cephalopod-like SCP objects are instructed to destroy them as soon as feasible. This message has been transmitted in a Grade B subconscious suggestibility modality cognitohazard. Staff recalling the entirety of this message are ordered to seek amnestic treatment immediately. Do not think about octopi or squids. Pendager, 53893. To all embedded assets within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the code word is whatever that means. I repeat, the code word is whatever that means. You read that correctly. Identity redacted. Wonder what that is. Okay. Do not abandon Site-17. I remind you that the punishment for desertion is summary execution. Distress signal received, unable to respond, sorry. This is an automated message. The communications network for Site-23 is non-operational at this time. The likely cause is fire/explosion/other. You will be notified when the network is back in working order. Please do not respond. Please sign up by today for Site-81 Holiday Potluck. No paper plates or cups, please. March 11th seems to have been a really, really bad day. Town of Blalock is back under control. Massive casualties. Need medevac and a disinformation team ASAP. Times of India website has been taken down. Checking to see if other news outlets need to be taken offline. Stand by. False alarm. No need for further action. Everything is fine. We're activating the failsafe now. Our people have done all they can. Keep on fighting, everyone. Cancel the order for the replacement Suzuki GSX R1000 chain. Found one at the local motorcycle shop. Bike works fine. All personnel at Site 35 are instructed to stay away from maximum security Morgue 3A until containment specialists have finished constructing the barrier. The site lockdown continues until we can find SCP-2996. We'll discuss who's responsible for yesterday's unauthorized transfer afterwards. I'm in the secure control room with Captain Hughes' credentials and a lot of blood on my lab coat. I don't remember what the contents of the message I'm supposed to send are. If anyone knows, that would be good. The day will come when this Earth will be substituted with a new Earth and also the heavens, and everyone will be brought before God, the One, the Supreme. Allah preserve us. November 3rd, Force Readiness Report Update. Combat capable forces in Zone 8. 15 personnel, 0 units. This message is automatically generated. Do not respond. Okay, you can let the news crew back into Anchor Watt now. Oh, Christ. Apollo 62 is experiencing difficulties. We're limiting it to 001 critical activities now. Please use whatever backup systems are available to you. Watch yourselves out there. Okay. Let's see now. Affected items. SCP-063. Plastic toothbrush. Labeled the world's best toothbrush. Capable of removing existence of all dead and inorganic matter that comes in contact with its bristles. Okay, so that was before Serapis, after Serapis. An unidentified humanoid advertising itself as the world's best dentist. Entity has been known to appear at low-cost dental service facilities and is capable of generating a localized time anomaly used to make the entity and its patient experience time at a much slower rate than the outside world. Prior to amnesticization, patients have reported experiencing dental procedures lasting in excess of 2 to 3 days during relative time periods of 10 to 15 minutes by outside observation. Affected subjects uniformly report healthy teeth and gums. SCP-087, an unending stairwell located at blank university, host to an unknown hostile entity. I feel like it's probably the Fine Arts Building staircase at Ryder. An unending stairwell located at the United States Department of Defense headquarters, aka the Pentagon. Host to an unknown hostile entity. Of note, unlike the previous iteration of this anomaly, SCP-087 has been observed to open the doorway to its entrance of its own accord. Okay. SCP-106. How many of these have changed? A lot of them. Yeah. Okay, whatever happened to that one? Wait, what are these, okay. Recontained? No, yes, no, yes, 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 no, 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 yes, 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 no, 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 yes, no, no, yes, no. I'm not going to read through all of these because look at there's just so fucking many of them. I can only hope that this is touched on when I get to the actual entries. A striped multicolored scarf of variable length possessing a limited degree of sapience is now a woven mass of human nerve tissue apparently tattooed to resemble a striped multicolored scarf possessing a limited degree of sapience and the ability to communicate in great detail to researchers. Alright then. Back to Killian's proposal. Okay. Continued deliberations. 052 let the email alert fade from her terminal screen without opening it. She already knew that the Foundation had suffered more casualties in the past 24 hours than all of the last 5 years put together. The only thing reading the details would accomplish would be she'd be sapping the sapping of her resolve. The path forward was clear. Ensuring a future was worth any price. She wished she could tell each field commander personally, "We're certain about this, just hold the line." Then again, desperation was on her side. People had a remarkable tenacity in the face of death. Nobody needed to remind anyone of what the consequences of failure were. The large video monitor on the wall beside her, chimed with an incoming video conference notification. 053. She buried her face in her hands. Did she not get her fill of vitriol during the council vote? Knowing 053, it was quite likely. She sat up. Internecine warfare was one of the few ways the council had to amuse itself in this world. Even now, those habits died hard, maybe especially now. She motioned at the screen and 053's dark line face was on her wall. "The vote's over, 3. You lost. Does that still make you mad?" The woman on the screen sighed. "What I am is scared, too." It had not been a full 2 days since SCP-2798 had gone down, and the toll had been horrific. There was no way that current Operations were sustainable for more than a week. Fear was probably the only reasonable response. Telling someone else that you're frightened isn't very therapeutic in our line of work, 3. Fear is contagious. Can I do something for you? 053 leaned a little closer to the monitor. You blocked the vote. You cut off our exit. Oh, bullshit. There were plenty of us with doubts, but none with the certainty of yours. 5 and 13 were never going to vote for it anyway, but 6 and 12 would have. I talked to them before. I know that you talked them out of it. That's still not enough. 1 was the difference, and even you can't tell me that I can make 1 bend to anything. 053 sighed again. Look, that doesn't matter, I guess. It's done, and that's that. But you owe me something, too. Do I? 052 moved closer herself now. I owe you something for not letting you kill everyone? You're beyond absurd. I'm done with this now. Wait, please. I need to know. 053 paused a moment while she forced out the question. I need to know what you know. I need you to tell me why we didn't just make the worst mistake in the history of the world. The real reason, too. 052's hand hovered over the red button to end the call. She pulled it back. I went to the precog items. I peeked. The revelation washed over 053's hard features, her determined upper lip and furrowed brow softening as her face betrayed shock. It was the first time 052 had seen her face like that. You didn't? That can't possibly be. Is it really that hard to believe? With the gun in your own mouth, you're not the least bit curious about how things might turn out if you don't pull the trigger? Yes, I'm aware of the prohibitions. Who cares about that now? Are you going to report me? Requisition a detail to come and detain me in the middle of all of this? 053 sat in silence. There was no point arguing the point. There was no arguing the point. So what did you see? You know what it's like, 3. Being old. Ideally, you learn not to delude yourself with false hope. Resign yourself. You remember the old 11? His obsession with uploading his consciousness like he could cheat death? Ridiculous. He was ridiculous. 2 trailed off, the wild eyes of the former 0511 haunting her for a moment. But this? We've always fought to preserve what is, 3. We've never thought about what could be. What do you mean by that? All of the precog items point to a future. I haven't seen how we get to it, but it's not just survival. I saw great spires of glass that pierced the clouds, unspoiled landscapes, great flocks of birds passing through cityscapes built into mountaintops. I've seen people who don't fear sickness and death, no wars, no poverty. She grew more animated. All of the anomalies under our control that can tell us anything have showed me all showed me this place, that it exists. Someone survives to make it there. 053 looked skeptical. That's a very different place than the one we're seeing now. It's a different planet, we know that much. Do you think we're going to be able to mount a space colonization mission when we can't even keep ourselves alive right now? No, probably not, said 052. But at some point, someone does. And I want to give whoever that is the chance to do that. Don't you see? There's a point to all of this now. There is an end goal for humanity, more than just living another night. Our children will have a chance not just to live, but to live in peace. Isn't that worth continuing on? That seems very ideal, doesn't it? Said 053. Almost like it's designed to stay our hand. What reason do I have to make this up? It was useless as a tool to influence the council. If I had brought this up during the vote, I very well would have been detained then. You do seem to believe it. 053 frowned. You know that these things, they can be very untrustworthy. 1 or 2, maybe they come up with the same deception, said 052. All of them? Vanishingly unlikely. Some of these things are kept in separate realities. No, this is all pointing to something, and I believe it is true. Or rather, I believe it enough to keep going for the chance to make it real. 053 was silent for a moment. She swallowed. You know that we've already had 2 activations of SCP-089 in 2 days? 052 took a moment. No, I did not know that, and really, I would prefer not to know things like that. She went on. Nothing we're doing now is anything that we haven't been called upon to do before. It's harder, but it's the same thing. We've always tried to preserve some sort of future, and now that we've got proof of it, we can't stop now. Proof, said 053 quietly. God, I hope you know what you're doing too. Just help me hold things together until we can't do it anymore, so that whoever it is that gets us out of here and away from whatever the hell it is that's hunting us can do their duty. 052 fought hard, and the tears stayed in her eyes. She would not let them flow. 053, impossibly weary, looked sick and unwell, every one of her 68 years on display. nodded barely. She ended the call and 052 was left looking at her own reflection in the dark glass of the monitor. She studied her own face for a moment. She had more hope than 3 did, but for all that, she looked just as heartsick, just as scared. I hope I know what I'm doing too. 052 opened the message from Asian Subcommand and read the latest developments. More of the same. The heck is this, tail? Okay then. Back. Back to Kalin's proposal. Night at the Movies. From Pendergast William. Regarding planetary survey data, relevant. Hi. Sir, the latest data from KevTool 5 is in. We have 2 possible exoplanets that are theoretically suited for human life. In addition to being candidates for an eventual colonization effort, the preponderance of Goldilocks zone planets point to an increased likelihood that an alternative site for human civilization can at some point in the future be established. It is also worth noting that our probes continue to find no sign of HEs, or any extraterrestrial life for that matter. If I may express a personal opinion, I find this surprising. Nevertheless, the longer we go without contact, frankly, the better. This seems to lead further credence to the human survival hypothesis. Consider releasing some of this information to help build morale among the operatives. They could use it. Signed, General William Pendergast, Lead Project Heimdall. 2. Pendergast William, 057, regarding planetary survey data. General, appreciate your latest message. It looks like 2 may be right after all. That's something, at least, while we're dealing with 001. Couple of things to remember as you look out there. We're beginning to believe that 001 resides somewhere out in physical space. Not like you need any reminders, but look out for anything that might fit the description. That includes communications. It might try to talk to us again. The other thing that you should know is that I was the one back in 54 that got the message from it. That message hasn't been declassified yet, but you're likely to be the first that gets any other messages, so you should know. Some stuff that isn't in the file, whatever it is, knows about the Foundation, because the message came straight to me. And that's because I was the man in charge of finding out what was behind the spike in anomalous activity. It's very familiar with us, General, and it knew enough about me to know I was a movie buff. It left me directions to some place out in the desert, not so far that I couldn't get there in a few hours, so it knew where I lived. I drove out with a team in some jeeps, and in the middle of nowhere there was a movie house. And I mean the middle of nowhere. No roads, no human habitation. There in a washed-out gully was the movie house I'd gone to as a little boy. We were a little more wild in those days, and so I told my boys to wait while I went inside. It speaks to us in performance. It likes it better that way. It could just tell us whatever it wants, really, but this is one more way to mindfuck us, I think. Anyway, nice and air-conditioned inside, colder than hell. As soon as I sat down, the lights dimmed, and it showed me a movie. Not like any movie I'd ever seen, but it was most certainly a movie. The title was Planet of Hands, in English. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. There wasn't a story as such, more like a disjointed series of images. Some stuff was real famous, and I recognized it immediately. A lot of military footage, scenes of large battles, aftermaths of bombing campaigns, stuff like that. I recognized Stalingrad from the newsreels, and there were some scenes of what I assume was the Battle of Passchendaele? I don't know how to say that. I didn't realize there were movies of that. Mixed in with that, though, were other things. Some were filmed scenes, same quality as the other stuff of what had to have been other events from history. Mass starvations, a volcano eruption or two, villages of Indians being run through by Spanish conquistadors. Not very subtle. Then the scenes of the sites started. Still shots of buildings and facilities, all of which I knew to be ours. Pretty clear message for us there. Are you with me so far? Strange stuff, but nothing we hadn't encountered before. That's when it got bad. At the next instance, I was no longer in the theater. I was in my seat, but everything around me had changed. Vibrant colors, oversaturated hues like a mad painter had conjured them. They were everywhere. People, things, places swirling around me, all of it lit up like neon so that I could see things after I closed my eyes, and it was just a massive unspeakable acts. All of the rape, murder, and pillage from thousands of years had been forced into the room, each act phasing into and out of the others, moment to moment. I can't recall any image staying in the room more than a few seconds except the scene directly in front of me. It was a Turk, I think, clothed in a resplendent robe the color of Technicolor blood, his face barely visible behind an electric blue beard. He was casually forcing people down onto a sharpened stake embedded in the ground, impaling them over and over. The victim coming into and out of focus. First an old woman, then a soldier, then a child, back to another woman, each one after the other. Bang, bang, bang! The blood would wash on his robe and he would glow brighter each time. He didn't look angry or hateful. He looked like this was the most natural thing in the world. Pushing someone down onto a stake until it forced its way up through their guts as they screamed until they bled out. If I had focused on another part of the room for any length of time, I think I would have seen similar things. How long this went on? I can't say. I was a younger man then, and I'm not ashamed to say that at a certain point I just covered my eyes and waited for it to stop. I would probably do the same today. And when I finally looked up again, the theater was back around me, the movie still being screened. What I saw up there was myself, now a part of the movie. I looked obscenely happy. At my age, I don't know, I don't look into a lot of mirrors, but I tell you, I have never seen a smile like that on myself, then or now. That, more than anything else, has stayed with me. You should never be surprised by an expression on your own face. It's awful. In the movie, I was boarding something like a big wooden ark, I suppose. Something out of a kid's book about Noah and the flood, purely symbolic. I watched myself on screen as I stepped into the ark. Some other people were getting on with me, a woman, a black man, some children, an old Chinaman, all walks of life, I guess, no one I recognized. When we were all aboard, the ark lifted into the heavens, sailing through the cosmos. It even had the Buck Rogers music in the background as the stars whistled by. The ark came to what I assumed was a planetary system of some kind, a planet looking a lot like Earth, blue and white and brown and green, at the center of a wild system of moons. I thought of an atom. The ark moved closer and closer to one of the moons until it came into view. This wasn't like Earth. This was a darkened nightscape, illuminated by fires dotting the land. All that was visible was soot, smoke, fire, a few rusty scraps of metal twisted into a big man-sized shapes. You know how the music swells when the movie ends? That was happening as we disembarked as the ship touched down on the night moon. All of the characters on the screen just looking ecstatic with joy. As I said, disconcerting when you see something like that on your own face. The movie was fading out now, but rather than "The End" placard appearing like it does, some other text appeared, this time in Russian. I can't pronounce that. Which we think was intended to be something like, "Come home instead." Why it started in English and finished in Russian, I have no idea. Maybe some smart-ass commentary on the Cold War, which would be a point of hope in dealing with this thing. Fallibility. I have my suspicions as to why this doesn't show up in the main file. That doesn't matter, though. You need context for any future attempts at communication from 001. Now you have it. Watch yourself. 7. Back to Kalinin's proposal. Standard dream report. Doesn't look as long as the other ones. Dr. Blip reported a manifestation of SCP-990 during a stream occurring 17 hours ago. Per emergency orders distributed to all personnel regarding possible data on SCP-01, Dr. Blip filed the following report and forwarded it on to Director of Site-17. The report was subsequently transmitted to Overwatch Command. Personnel, Dr. Blip, estimated degree of recall, 60%. Anomalous entity present? Yes. Likelihood of actionable intelligence? High. Description. SCP-990 is dressed in the same suit, looking the same as ever. I recognized him immediately. He is the clearest element in any dream he visits. His face changes a lot from dream to dream, but this time it's changing from one moment to the next. I attribute it to the high stress of the past couple of days. He tells me he's going to show me some things. I feel apprehension, and I wonder what burnt-out ruin he's going to show me, because that has to be what this is about, right? Our time is coming. This is going to be what awaits us. I try to wake up, but I can't do it. And it feels like I'm sitting at the bottom of a pool, and I can't will myself to go to the surface. I don't think I felt panic like that in a dream before. 990 shakes his head. I can't tell if it's him keeping me here or if it's the dream itself. We've never been able to figure out what kind of control he has. He says, "I'm going to guide you, blank. But I need something of you first." And he points at my left hand. It's a dream, right? Even with all of the things we've encountered in the field, I've never seen anyone harmed in that way. I hold out my hand. 990 nods at me, and he takes something out of his coat. It looks like a blade of some kind, and it's got a sharp edge, at least not a knife. More like something from a lawnmower or some piece of industrial machinery. Before I have time to ask what's going on, he's brought the blade down through my wrist lightning fast. I look at my hand terrified, and I'm sure it's going to fall off, and blood is going to start spraying any second. But nothing happens. I stare in shock for a few seconds. The pain is real. but I'm afraid to move my arm because my hand is going to fall off if I do. 990 looks sympathetic, and he tells me that I can move my hand, it's fine. Then he says that we're out of reach of 001 now and we can talk. I wiggle my fingers and they work like they should, but my hand is numb. The feeling is disconcerting, yet the sensation of panic from earlier is gone. Things feel more like a normal now, except for my hand. He looks at me. He's got my face now. I get the impression that that I am someone else now. Feels like a woman, but I'm not certain. Identity shifts a little as we talk. He tells me that he can give me 3 revelations before 001 finds him again. Suddenly we're sitting outside in the night air under the stars. There are 9 moons in the sky, varying sizes and phases. I'm in a child's body, he's still me. He speaks, holding up one finger. You are not in your proper place, he says. I ask him what that means. Me personally? The Foundation? Mankind? He ignores me. He raises a second finger. 052 is absolutely correct, and she is disastrously wrong. The reference to specific Foundation personnel is unnerving. I start to speak, but I can tell he's not going to listen. The third finger, third revelation. He leans in close to me. This is the trickiest one, he tells me. He asked me to commit this one to memory above all others, and so I have for this report. This is the last thing he said to me before I woke up. The primary mover behind what you know as SCP-01, above all other things, is love. That was when I awoke at my workstation. Strange. Okay, after action report. This is a longer one. On November 7th, 2016, at 4:30 in the morning Eastern Daylight Time, operatives with Local Mobile Task Force 352 received reports from Major League Baseball wire services that RHP Ellis Canastota had been assigned to the 40-man roster of the Cincinnati Reds franchise. This event triggered heightened alert notices to be sent off to all staff assigned to SCP-2272. At 4:45 Eastern Daylight Time, a second notice was sent through the official MLB channels that Ellis Canastota had been called up to join the 25-man Major League roster of the Cincinnati Reds. All available personnel, including the entirety of LMTF 352 Dalit, were then mobilized. He lay on his side and continued staring at the bright green digits of the alarm clock on the side table. Every few seconds, at irregular intervals, his phone would buzz. His work phone would buzz, the flood of emails vibrating the half-empty water glass and moving the phone slightly closer to the edge of the table each time. They had sent him home to sleep, and that's what he was going to pretend to do for the next couple of hours. By God! The clock blinked suddenly to 4:29 a.m. Bzz, bzz. The phone continued to shuffle at the edge of the table. They probably thought they were doing everyone a favor when they sent the declassified info around, like they were letting everyone in on a big secret. Who wouldn't enjoy that? Bzz, bzz, bzz. He certainly hadn't. No one had said anything about mass distribution of cyanide ampules that he had ever heard. There weren't any rumors. He had been blissfully unaware. Before last week, his biggest headache had been the non-stop political advertisements on the car radio. Those were the days. The clock blinked to 4:30 a.m. His phone started a lower, repeated, much more insistent buzzing now. The additional force of the vibrations carried the phone right off the edge, finally completing its journey to the floor with a thud. The buzzing of the waiting phone call persisted, muffled now by the carpet. He leaned down and groped for the phone, dreading what he knew he would see. He picked it up, the light from the screen hurting his eyes as he looked at it. Calling! Regional Director Kate McTierce. He shielded his eyes from the light of the phone, trying in vain to dull the throbbing in his head. Allred Smith here. The director's voice chirped in his ear. He sat all the way up on his bed, so much for pretending to sleep. They're going to call up Canastota? Huh. Well, figured we were due to catch a prime by this point. Okay, what are your orders? The voice on the other end of the line provided a laundry list of instructions and available personnel. If the director was more worried than usual, she didn't show it. Some things were the same, he guessed. Got it. I'll go ping the clandestine IT guys to scrub all this. Is the office open yet? He tried smoothing a deep crease in his shirt with the palm of his hand. The crease paid him no mind. Nor did his hair as he tried to smooth it back down with his fingers. Whatever. Let someone complain about him looking like he'd slept on a park bench and come into work. He could use some comic relief. Because I need something out of there, just in case. He put on his shoes and straightened his tie. He grabbed a baseball cap from the dresser to cover his hair. He laughed despite himself. No, nothing. Yeah, that's what I'm getting. You have a... The voice cut him off. He listened intently as he surveyed himself in the mirror. The cartoon fish on the front of his cap wrapping itself around a baseball bat looked like he meant business. Huh. Decommission. That's a new one. No, don't worry, boss. We won't hesitate if things get hairy. The director hung up. He looked for his car keys. This was probably going to involve more than the IT guys before this was done. At 05:21 hours, the MLB official scheduler posted a notice online for a game to be played at noon the same day between the Cincinnati Reds and the St. Louis Cardinals at the Great American Ballpark in central Cincinnati. The starting pitchers were listed as Mike Leake for the St. Louis Cardinals and Ellis Canisoto for the Cincinnati Reds. What do you mean they're playing a game today? They just finished the goddamn World Series! Dr. Hanaka barked loud enough to be heard from the front of the bus-sized mobile command center as it sped north on I-75. It's probably snowing there or something by now. Actually, the weather's pretty nice today. Agent Allred Smith gazed out the window as he balanced the long black case on his knees, which is far worse for keeping people out of the stadium. Fuck. How many tickets were sold before we took the notice down? A young woman sitting across from Allred Smith at a mobile terminal quickly pecked at a keyboard. 17,397 tickets total, ma'am. It's a good thing we got the ESPN piece before they aired it. Pretty novel, an exhibition game right after the series. 17,000. This is a goddamn disaster. Dr. Hanaka, I guess Dr. Hanaka's a lady. Isn't she the one who disappeared or some shit? Paced to the rear of the command center. Enriquez, get us into the ballpark contracting system. I want our security folks there, and if we can, I want concessions done by us too. Everyone in the park who isn't on the field or in the stands should be one of us. The young logistics officer looked up at Dr. Tanaka from his terminal. You want us selling hot dogs? Dr. Hanaka's eyes flashed behind her glasses. She loomed over the sitting Enriquez. Hot dogs, beer, licorice nachos, and fucking churros if we can manage it. She threw her clipboard to the floor. We've got a breaching anomaly with a paying audience of 17,000 goddamn people. You shut the fuck up and do what you're goddamn told, you understand? Agent Allred Smith couldn't help but think back to the last time he'd heard Dr. Hanaka speak, at a seminar on academic peer review a few months ago. He recalled struggling to hear the soft-spoken doctor from the back of the room. He coughed into his fist a couple of times to conceal his laughter as the unfortunate Enriquez scrambled to fulfill his orders. LMTF2, those fucking people arrived at the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati at 11:47 hours local time. Given the number of civilians in the vicinity with the specific purpose of attending a baseball game, closing the ballpark was deemed to be unfeasible. By the time the doors were open to spectators, 78% of the service personnel within the stadium were comprised of Foundation or Foundation-contracted personnel. Operatives at the scene elected to monitor the ongoing events and determine what the next course of action. Ow. Sorry, I popped my elbow. Why am I apologizing? You guys don't know who the fuck I am. Agent Dunbar stepped into the luxury suite, crammed with wires, monitoring equipment, and computer terminals befitting an improvised command center. He looked out the window. The field below was ready for play, the grass freshly mowed, the infield perfectly manicured, our fresh Reds logo outlined in chalk behind home plate. They just posted the lineups, ma'am. You're not going to like it. Dr. Hanaka signed. How can there even be lineups? We've checked locations on everyone. None of the players from either team are in the area or aware of the game. What does it matter? Agent Dunbar fidgeted slightly. Canisoto is starting at every position. Great! More of him. For both teams, ma'am. The room was silent for a moment. All of the members of LMTF 352 Dalit were looking to Dr. Hanaka for the next set of orders. She looked down at the game. Cheers went up as what looked like the Cincinnati Reds took the field. She grabbed a set of binoculars and looked again. Sure enough, every single player was the same smiling, dark-haired young man, each one's uniform bearing the same number 72 on the back, the name Canisoto embroidered above. She looked to the signals technician of the group. Readings? An older man at an especially equipment-laden terminal responded. Aerial sonar readings are negative. There's no one on the field except the umpires. At least he's not officiating his own game. That would be unsporting. Dr. Tanaka put down the binoculars. Narrative officers, I need disinfo and social media posts out and blanketing the internet within 15 minutes. This is a publicity stunt. See that it's perceived that way. Be ready to pull it if things don't go well. A group of 3 researchers in the corner of the room immediately pulled out phones and laptops and got to work. Dr. Hanaka moved on. Crowd control. Ensure that all of our vendors are fully stocked with Class Cs. Don't start distributing unless I give the order. A man in a police officer's uniform stepped out of the room, already relaying instructions into the walkie-talkie in his hand. Memetics! I want every communication coming out of that stadium screened for anomalous influences. Use the new AI we've developed. We don't have time to round up human subjects for observation. A frazzled-looking woman in the seats by the windows, concern in her eyes, opened her mouth. She looked up at Dr. Hanaka. She closed her mouth and began tapping at a tablet computer. And you, Agent Allred Smith. Dr. Hanaka now loomed over the agent, reclining in a chair next to the sweet refrigerator. I want you up in the cheap seats with your toy there. She nodded to the long black case at Agent Allred Smith's lap. He nodded back. Your signal? My signal, Agent. Due to ongoing containment efforts coordinated at the scene by the people, spectators at Great American Ballpark were documented to be under the impression that they were watching a non-anomalous game of baseball until approximately 14:52 hours local time, coinciding with the middle of the game's 7th inning. At that time, an individual matching all known biometric data of the baseball player Pedro Borbin and identifying themselves as such took the field and was handed a microphone, presumably as part of the traditional singing of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" during the 7th inning of baseball games. Notable discomfort amongst assembled spectators was audible as the identity of the speaker became apparent. Agent Allred Smith surveyed the infield through his high-powered scope. Part of SCP-2272's duty was being familiar with baseball, and he knew a dead player when he saw one. He touched his earpiece. This is way beyond documented behavior, Doctor. Do I have authorization? Dr. Hanaka barked in his ear. No, goddammit! You have authorization when I say you do! You're going to wait until a dead man starts doing whatever the hell it is dead people do here? Your apparatus is set up. Agent Allred Smith touched the tripod directly in front of him. Affirmative, Doctor. Then you'll be able to react in under 5 seconds when I give the word. I'd explain how we need to learn all we can, but then I don't need to explain jack shit to you, Agent. You wait for my signal. Roger that, Doctor. He leaned back in his seat. The dead man was speaking now, the crowd on their feet in anticipation. Pedro Borbin, noted multi-inning relief pitcher and deceased member of the Big Red Machine teams of the 1970s, looked skyward as he held the microphone. Sport is a wonderful symbol of the human condition. You will be relieved to hear that, much the same way as in this place, in our perfect society. Sport is a sacred pastime. The crowd was silent. Sport is more than competition. Sport creates victors and vanquished. The feeling of triumph cannot exist without the sacrifice of the defeated. You will understand more after we have truly spoken. The dead pitcher, looking every bit the spry athlete of generations ago, spoke with an impassive face. This place, this game, this creation, this is a fine place for us to speak plainly. Agent Allred Smith scanned the crowd for any unusual activity. All in the stadium were perfectly still and perfectly silent. For the first time, the pitcher smiled. We have heard a story from your people many times, I'm sure you're familiar, of a man asking his friend, returned from the grave, if there is baseball in heaven. Let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, there is baseball in heaven. The speaker laughed, a high-pitched screeching thing, not at all matching the expression on his face. Allred Smith trained the scope on the pitcher's face. And today, we can all see together, they have baseball in hell, too. As he stopped speaking, the house organ came up, the familiar notes of the traditional song of 7th inning stretches across the country ringing out. Pedro Borbin doffed his cap for the silent audience and faded away into nothing. The organ continued. No one sang. Communications via social media and personal messages from civilians in attendance of the game increased greatly following the remarks of the unknown entity during the 7th inning. The number of messages combined with the content indicating what had occurred necessitated elevated containment protocols. At 14:59 hours local time, Dr. Kane Hanaka authorized decommissioning of SCP-2272 and mass deployment of amnestics. The precursor agents had been authorized for distribution at the end of the 3rd inning. Every refreshment item served in the ballpark had Part A of a Class C 2-part amnestic. Based on field studies and their own observations of the game, the task force chemists assured Dr. Hanaka that the penetration rate was in excess of 90%. More than enough to ensure memory alteration and suggestibility among the critical mass threshold of the crowd. Dr. Hanaka nodded and barked some orders into a nearby handset. A small prop plane carrying a banner behind it reading 2016 Winter Exhibition and previously circling the stadium throughout the day now swooped low over the Great American Ballpark, looking to have just enough altitude to avoid hitting the lights. A great plume of scarlet smoke billowed from the rear of the plane. Part B was being released. The reaction would be powerful enough to allow the narrative team to construct a plausible mass delusion that would hopefully obscure all details of what the crowd had watched here today. As the plane flew overhead, Agent Allred Smith adjusted his gas mask and lined up his shot. The camera mounted on the tripod was a delicate, finicky instrument, and the satellite link was proving tricky. 3 different observation modalities, including a converted form of the sonar feed, were needed to achieve the necessary pinpoint in which SCP-2272 would be obliterated. The research seemed to indicate that capturing the image of SCP-2272 in a format which would allow it to be both observed and unobserved, would render it unstable as a coherent memeplex, or something. The reasoning was above his pay grade. The green indicator light flashed on. He trained the camera on the field, making sure to capture the players on the field, the man waiting on deck, and both dugouts, all the smiling likenesses of Ellis Canastota, number 72, right-hand pitcher. All visual feeds were in tandem and functioning. He took the shot. At that moment, the billowing red cloud of smoke descended on him, obscuring the field, the seats, and all his surroundings. He held the gas mask tight in place over his face, against his face, ensuring that none of the air around him leaked in. The amnestics officer would be pissed if they had to reconstruct his memory. A wind kicked up from the north, blowing out over the Ohio River and carrying the smoke out over the right field bleachers like so many fly balls hit before. The view began to return as the smoke dissipated and retreated. Agent Allred Smith dared a glance down at the field. Empty. 4 dumbstruck umpires were congregated around the pitcher's mound, doubtless discussing whether to call the game before their minds were temporarily thrown into suggestible torpor. No players on the field, in foul territory, or in the dugouts, not an Ellis Canastota to be seen. An image appeared on the camera's viewfinder. Allred Smith looked closely. The image he had taken, the image that had apparently neutralized this long-running anomalous phenomenon, was not of the playing field of the Great American Ballpark, and its place a black and white team photo showed on the camera's screen. 25 men arranged neatly in rows, wearing uniforms that he recognized as those of the 1st Cincinnati Redlegs team. All 25 men wore the exact same smile that he had come to recognize as that of Ellis Canastota. Unlike a typical team photo, this photo was taken at night under the stars. 9 moons could be seen in the sky. A sign propped in front of the smiling squadron read, "The past, the future." All 25 men were holding their arms out in front of them. All 25 men were missing their hands. Yeah. Okay, so how many does that leave? Another standard dream report, the man at the threshold, and then this. So I'm 51 minutes into this recording, so I'm definitely not going to be able to get that last part, I'm not going to be able to get the consensus in this episode, but I'm going to try to finish up, at the very least, Kalinen's proposal, which will make this well over an hour, but I'm going for it. Document 990-04. Per advice of her personal physician, 052 took several prescriptions in order to induce sleep in the early hours of November 7, 2016. Upon awaking, 05 reported a manifestation of SCP-990, the first documented instance in which the anomaly has appeared to an overseer. Given the nature of the information contained within the dream event, this form is transcribed and is presented as dictated by 052 to blank, her personal assistant. Okay. Description. Oh god, this is too big. I've made a horrible mistake. I have no idea. I didn't know. It's obscene, really, to say these things. I don't know what else to say. What? I mean, okay, yes. I can get it down. I can think after. In 1978, I had a child. This is something that's highly discouraging for those in our position for obvious reasons. Who was the father? Don't ever ask me that question again. I'll end your life, I swear it. I had a child because I needed a bit of the future in my life. Something that would go on. It was a stupid reason to bring life into this world, but I'm human, and I do stupid things. He was 3 years old. His name was Gabriel. And then he died of a terrible, wasting illness that our best doctors could not treat. He died with my name on his lips and convulsions racking his little body. Someone reading this file knows how that came to pass. I know it was you. You're afraid to ask now, but I see it on your face. I'm coming to a point. Gabriel came to me last night. No, damn you, not like a dream about a dead relative or some other silly nonsense. He came to me. He brought me to a hill. Atop that hill was 990, crucified, beaten so badly his face wasn't a face at all, his hands missing. His suit was impeccably pressed. Gabriel smiled up at me, forever 3. You'd think you'll break down at moments like these, because who hasn't thought about moments like these, no matter how childish? You think that you will weep with joy and gather everything you've lost in your arms and that things will be okay now. That you didn't make such horrifying mistakes, that you'll be forgiven. When my dead son looked up at me, all that I felt was terror. Terror so great and overwhelming that I thought my heart would stop. I've never known anything like it. I was paralyzed. This was not right. This was not in any way right. Oh God, and then he spoke. His voice was a man's voice. Worse than that, it was the voice I had imagined his voice being if he had grown up to be a man. The smallest little fancies, shamefully foolish little hopes that were impossible and weak, and they were on display for this thing that is hunting us. What's that? Oh yes, it's hunting us. He said to me, He said, oh God, he said to me, I've missed you, Mommy, and it was like being shot in the chest. It felt as though a great fist had closed around my head, squeezing the tears out of my face, my grief being wrung out against my will, against my screaming fear. When I came to my senses, he was still looking at me. He talked more. This was plainly 001 speaking through the figure in my dream. After this, 990 would echo whatever it said, softly, moaning it from his scarecrow cross. None of us can believe in God, but this was surely a blasphemy. I'm going to try and remember what it said for all our sakes. Okay, here's what it told me. You're tempted to think of us as your fathers, your gods. But we are actually your children. We're not quite your children because we came before you, but we love you like a child loves its parent. You know what I speak of. You've seen a future that is really a past, and a present. It's our world. It's all that humanity is capable of. We live our days in paradise. Isn't that what you want for your children? Knowing that while you might suffer, while you might die, your children will see the better days, the sunlight without end. Maybe they won't have to die like you will, and so it is. We do not hurt. We will not suffer. You and the others like you have brought us here. We are the perfect children of the perfect mothers and fathers. What no child says of his parents, but what every child thinks, is this. I am glad that I will live to bury these people. I am glad that they will suffer on my behalf. I am glad that it is not me who is to die. For many, many years, these were the feelings that brought shame. It wasn't until the latest stages of our perfection that we understood. This is a guide. This is order demonstrated for us by the oldest of societal units. I need a glass of water. He giggled, like he did when he was an infant, and as he finished that part. Oh, Jesus. More history. I was raped as a girl. It was a stranger in an alley, and it was the most horrifying experience of my life until my dead son explained our proper place in the cosmos to me. I cannot begin to describe how violating this was except to compare it. It's okay. You can look horrified. I allow it. Then he came to the heart of it. Here's the rest of what he said. Parents sacrifice for their children, don't they? Expend every little bit of flesh, will, intellect, everything they have so that their children may live an extra day in the hope that the sunshine never ends. That's as it should be. You will remember. Many, many years ago, your kind left. We didn't figure out how until several centuries after, but somehow you transmitted yourselves far beyond even our reach. Some among you secretly understood the more forbidden aspects of space and time. You fled. Must I explain to you how your science is so woefully inadequate? How your knowledge was stolen and how we whittled away the little bits of it until you convinced yourselves that you just appeared on your little planet spontaneously? I will return some of your knowledge. You'll remember it because your society, even so far removed from us, is teaching it to you even now. Crawl towards the beautiful and dying place that you know exists, and you find that you turn on each other, dragging each other back, sabotaging hints of hope. You find it to be a failing, when in actuality is an inescapable part of our species. A system can be made perfect. The gossamer webs that connect our minds and our spirits and our souls can be made perfect, free from corruption. But it must be done with the knowledge of suffering. It must be done knowing that others are suffering on your behalf. Why that is, we cannot say. It does not matter, it merely is. Our very souls are in harmony with each other because we know that we lie at the center of 9 points of privation and death. There are 9 satellites to our realm which you cannot deny as a glory. You've seen it yourself, Mother. God, he called me Mother. Your kind left the planet of hands many thousands of years ago. It has sat empty, a gap in our perfection, reminding us not of what we are missing, but of the joyous return that our prodigal mothers and fathers will soon make. I've never been able to say that word the right way. There are limits to our abilities. We cannot simply travel to where you have chosen to exile yourselves. We must use more subtle means. Oh, how we wish we could take you all into our arms. We have feast days for all of you at home. One for each of the 9. The Feast of the Planet of Hands has become the greatest event of our year. We cannot embrace you, lead our beloved forebears back to their home. But we love you, and we love you so much, with all our hearts and our souls, that we will show you how you are loved, how loved you truly are from across impossible distances beyond light. I make you this promise. All of you, I make this promise too, from the hearts of all of us at the center of the 9 points. You will come back of your own free will. We will not need to show you how, for the knowledge already rests within you. We will not need to explain why. You have seen the terrors that lurk outside of our protection. We will merely need to show you who we are, who you are, who all of us are. We will all be so much happier soon. Tomorrow shall be the greatest expression of our love we have ever conducted. And that was it. This abomination of my flesh explaining the world to me. The bleeding man on the cross echoing his words above. I awoke screaming 30 minutes ago. Tell 3 I'm sorry. Okay, the back battle. This is a surprisingly low file size for this video to have already gone over an hour. Okay, the man at the threshold, AVI. What the fuck? Why is it written as a play? Okay, from 051 to 051 from 0512 regarding the end, urgency high. I hope that this gets through. If you're like me, seeing things on the BBC and the New York Times before getting briefed on them by staff is doing a number on you. It's over. The only thing left is to tell you what I know. 2 is dead. We only know that because she's told us herself. Nice of her to leave us a note, I guess. I've established contact with 3, 7, and 13. The rest, who knows? There aren't any protocols for something like this. The best we can tell is that they put on a performance. The Man at the Threshold, Act 1, 35 years. Act 1, Scene 1. 9:43 hours local time. Disturbance in the vicinity of Giza Plateau, Egypt. Egyptian military mobilized in response to apparent mass gathering in front of the Great Sphinx, based on initial intelligence of a Muslim Brotherhood action. Embedded media present. Massive information leak of anomalous phenomena. 0947 hours local time. Spontaneous powerful sandstorm is circling in approximately 100-kilometer radius of the Great Sphinx. A battalion of the Egyptian army is present to witness the performance. 4 humanoids, appearing to be Semitic in appearance and clothed simply in white cloth and sandals, appear spontaneously at the scene as well. Several rounds discharged by soldiers present suggest that the humanoids are non-corporeal. The as-yet unidentified beings take no notice of any actions occurring around them. Proteus. I hope I'm not big and proper when I say that I'm scared. We're all scared, Proteus. This is the day that our cohort has been preparing for our entire lives. 3 of us will be chosen. Have we made enough of our time here? Will it comfort us if we are cast outside? Just look at the things we've done together. We've mapped an unknown star system, wrote a song that made us heroes of the summer convocation, scaled the shadow pass of the mountain of ice. I tell you, Proteus, if they cast me out today, I can say that no matter what comes after, it was all worth it. I hope to be as brave as you when I enter the chamber. All except what they are given in the threshold. How could it be otherwise? 10:17 hours local time. Sandstorm intensifies briefly, obscuring all vision in the local area before immediately subsiding. When visibility is reestablished, no anomalous humanoids are present. However, the Great Sphinx has been removed, replaced with a blue light holographic projection, and the appearance of the Sphinx and of approximately the same size, with no discernible source. Numerous photographic and videographic records are taken and circulated. Existential threat to consensus reality in progress. 11:43 hours local time. Darkness falls midday in Tahrir Square in Cairo, Egypt. No evidence of a solar eclipse, cloud cover, or any other possible cause of such conditions is apparent. 9 moons appear to be visible in the night sky. Riots begin almost immediately, and messages proclaiming the end times begin to be broadcast over the PA systems attached to several local mosques. Images corresponding to the 4 humanoids appearing at the Great Sphinx are projected by an unknown source onto the side of the Magama building, visible to all within the square. Activity stops as sound begins accompanying the images. This set of 4, born on this day 35 years past, are you ready to enter? We are. We are. Do you see, as it has been intended, how even those cast into exile may have a taste of our beautiful world, and how those that remain have shared the shadow of death with those that must take their leave now? We do. We do. Look then out at this world. On this day, this is the threshold. This is the place where human society is made. It is here that the salvation of the few, so great in its perfection, so sacred in its magnificent beauty, is earned by the fate of the many. It is they who will make the ultimate sacrifice, and they who deserve our love and our honor most of all. Do you choose to pass the threshold of your own volition? We do. We do. Mow the snowfall of the shadow peaks. Step forward. I stand ready. You shall dwell on the planet of eyes. I accept my duty. Aegis Skysail, third denizen of the Watchcliffs, you shall be taken to the planet of skin. I accept my duty. Aegis appears to stumble slightly, close to fainting. Monashir Violet Light, the Lady of the Tower, I stand ready. You shall remain. Remember always the great love of your departed sisters and brothers, now and forevermore. I shall. Monashir begins to weep. Proteus Hammersmith the Wayfinder. I stand ready. Proteus trembles. You are to come to the planet of hands. 12:32 hours local time. Upon concluding with the above dialogue, daylight returns to the Tahrir Square. Of the estimated 10,000 people gathered in the square, several thousand spontaneously lose vision, and several hundred appear to be instantaneously flayed alive through unknown means. All other persons present in the square no longer have hands after the conclusion of the anomalous display, instead having completely healed stumps. Regional news networks, in particular Al Jazeera, begin to run coverage despite attempts at coordinated interference with dissemination of information. All nations have put their militaries on high alert, and few look to have already taken the opportunity to settle a few scores in the confusion. That's the only thing that makes sense now, really. What do they think they're mobilizing against? A way to look like they're doing something anyway. The churches, mosques, synagogues, etc. are overflowing. The Abrahamic folks are convinced that judgment is at hand. Everyone else just sort of figures that we're all fucked. The first reports of murder-suicides are coming in. Not as many as we might have expected, though. People have options. 001 made sure to let them know that. Act 2, The Traveler Prepares. Scene 1. 15:22 hours local time. Reports emerge from Beijing of the embalmed corpses of Mao Zedong ambulating under its own power from the mausoleum and into Tiananmen Square. Visual confirmation emerges on Xinhua news service outlet several minutes later. An anomalous humanoid projection similar to that seen in the part of Proteus in the Cairo disturbance appears in the middle of the square alongside the corpse of Mao, which appears to have assumed the role of the man. There's no sense lingering. We have our appointed places. Proteus. But there's simply no sense in it. Our world is immense. Our use of its resources is efficient and wise. Surely none of us must live in exile. Problems of the far future become the problems of tomorrow for a race that has no end to its days. There must be a way to manage it. If all women and men live for as long as they care to, we must have no need for births. What purpose the creation of life if it is to suffer? I've had this duty for a very long time, my friend. These are not new questions, and my answers are not new. Our kind ascended when we understood the true nature of ourselves. We must always be able to create new life. Our minds, subtly interconnected through the air and through the dreamscapes, turn dark and destructive when the act of creation is taken from us. What of suffering? What of the cruelty that lives on our 9 moons? Suffering? Yes, there is suffering. It must be so, and we must know of it, taste of it, build our houses upon its foundations. As life preys on life, so does human enterprise need vast inputs of suffering. It binds us together. The knowledge that there are others that cannot have what we have built affects us deeply. It is a cornerstone in our souls. That is something we discovered very long ago. It is vital, and it was this discovery that paved the way to Heaven's Gate. But cruelty? No. We do not do these things because we wish to cause pain. We do it for those that remain in the wondrous society that we have built. We have given beauty and truth to those without end to those that are chosen. If even one person may taste the infinite good, is that not worth any amount of finite suffering? But why must it be I who pays the price? My friend, come with me. I shall escort you. 15:59 hours local time. Upon conclusion of the anomalous occurrence, crowds in Tiananmen Square become highly agitated, tearing apart the corpse of Mao Zedong and resisting an assembled cordon of riot police. Leaders of major world governments have begun issuing statements urging for calm among their populations as scientists struggle to explain the occurrences in Cairo and Beijing. Thousands are reported to have died in civil unrest in population centers throughout the world. Act 2, Scene 2. I don't know how long this is. I apologize for how long this episode is. I'm probably going to do the last section of SCP-1 in another episode. So SCP-1 will have been 6 episodes that will probably be long, and then the other ones will be less long, hopefully. 1610 hours local time. The three gorges dam in Hubei province, China spontaneously disappears. The immense volume of water being held back by the dam previously does not move. Within minutes, helicopters operated by local emergency authorities are on the scene. Humanoid projections appear on the vast surface of the wall of water. What is this place? Do you see our planet in the sky? That wondrous blue sphere? You are on the planet of Hands, my companion. I don't understand. It looks like it has been on fire. Buildings, rubble. There was a time when we merely exiled those whose duty was to come here. They built their own societies in a fashion. They were driven by what they could not have, their slender hope twisted into a sort of vengeance upon their children at the center of this great constellation. They built great structures, vast ships, terrible weapons. The uprising happened many, many millennia ago. The last conflict our humanity will ever have to face. Now it is a simple matter to ensure that this never happens again. No perverse hope to tempt anyone into foolish destruction. By taking away our hands. By taking away your hands. The mindset of a planet of those without hands is the proper one, for all of us. Where is everyone? Come. 1632 hours local time. The waters of the Yangtze River are released, causing massive flooding, widespread destruction of homes and property, and thousands of deaths along the area of the river's banks. The destruction further inflames instability in the People's Republic of China. The country's ruling Communist Party is overthrown in a popular uprising within a matter of hours after this event. It all comes apart, everything that we've worked for, crushed in a matter of hours, and the only thing holding them together, keeping things from being even worse than they already are, is one idea. Going home. Wherever home happens to be. Act 3, to the people of Earth. Act 3, Scene 1. 2301 hours local time. All notable buildings within the Capitol Mall region of Washington, D.C. change coloration from white to red. The Washington Monument emits a bright column of red light, stretching up into the sky and visible from hundreds of miles away. 10-meter-tall holographic projections of several humanoids, similar to those previously depicted, appear directly over the monument's reflecting pool. We have traveled many miles. The planet of Hades is vast, but look, we have another. More people? I must be close to the blessed end. Who are you? I no longer have a name. We have no need for such things here. Do you remember your home? This is my home. I mean the place you came from, to here. I remember a time when I wasn't starving, but that was a long time ago. It's difficult to recall. Your ribs are showing. Would you like me to find some food for you? There's nothing to find. This is a place of ash and salt, but the hunger is a blessing. My mind feels clear. My being so light and clean. God speaks to me here. He tells me to lift my stumps to the blue light in the sky, and so I do. And I pray, and I am filled with the knowledge that I am here for a purpose. I am suffused with happiness. This place makes you happy? The last gift of the body before it evaporates is the divine revelation. I live in truth. I live without fear, without doubt. I dwell in the spirit that had made this place. This is a place of ecstasy. Handless woman collapses. And now her time here is at an end. No torments of false hope, nor food, nor water to sustain her suffering longer than it must. It is but a little sacrifice when faced with the salvation that it brings. How long was she here? A fortnight. She did not seem to be suffering. The joy of martyrdom obliterates all suffering. It is a secret known only to those of the outer planets, of those to a gift to those who make this sacrifice. No, she is truly transcended. I am ready. 23:33 hours local time. Crowds estimated at approximately 50,000 people have gathered around the Washington Monument to witness the anomalous occurrence. Law enforcement authorities are not present at the scene, having been summoned to contain unrest elsewhere in the capital region. Act 3, Scene 2. 23:40 hours local time. A large doorway in the center of the Washington Monument opens. Nothing is visible inside but a faint green light. The holographic projections continue. Present your hands, Father of Humanity. The man holds a ceremonial blade aloft in one hand, a torch in the other. I stand ready. Proteus holds his hands before the man. Do you accept the gift of sacrifice? For those brethren that shall remain in the light for all time? The man saws at Proteus's left wrist. I do. Proteus bleeds profusely. Do you offer your suffering for the good of the whole, your exile for the benefit of the collective psyche of humanity? The man wrenches Proteus's left wrist, snapping bone and tendon, then slicing the remaining ligaments, keeping the hand in place. I do. Proteus spurts blood from left wrist. Do you renounce the unstable reality of the universe outside this system? Commit yourself to the preservation of sanity within this system of planets. The man burns Proteus' left stump with a torch, cauterizing the wound. I do! Ugh! With the left hand, you accept your duty. With the right, our duty to you. The man cleanly slices off the right hand of Proteus in one fluid motion. I thank you. Proteus bleeds profusely. We, the living, shall keep a society of perfect harmony, perfect justice, perfect beauty. We, the living, shall keep our human natures pure, living in the highest purpose that is possible for our forms. We, the living, shall transform your suffering into the most divine purpose imaginable. The man burns Proteus' right stump with a torch, cauterizing the wound. I am honored beyond measure! In this holy pact we shall know love without measure or end. Go forth, Father, complete your journey. I accept my duty. 23:59 hours local time. The humanoid projection portraying Proteus enters the doorway within Washington Monument. Other projections vanish upon its entry. The doorway begins to slowly close. Several spectators from the closest ranks of the crowd rush into the doorway, followed by increasing numbers of onlookers until an estimated 3,000 bystanders enter the monument before the gateway closes. No person entering the monument has been contacted or seen since this event. 13 asked me if what we worked to preserve was ever natural. What a stupid question. What does it matter if the world we enabled was unnatural? It was better than what waits for us. The thing in Washington gave people lots of ideas. People have managed to summon a couple more of these gateways in a few places. They're fleeing into them, it's hard to blame them. We've lost any meaningful ability to control anything, the jig is up. The world knows that science is an illusion and certainty is a cruel joke. Why not take the chance? Better a refugee than a corpse. Or worse. Me? No, I will not. I won't end my life as one of the cattle. It was a pleasure to serve one. Okay. So that just leaves, JC and the Aurelios. Let me see how long that one is. It's another story, and it's too long for me to add to this already ridiculously long episode. So, I'm going to end this episode here, and the next episode we're going to read Casa de Jacinta de la Casa, and then also the last part of SCP-01, which is the consensus. So let's just go to that page already, so that I have it open. Because realistically, I'm going to record these back to back. I just need to make it stop. So, this has been Anashi Sasuke. Thank you guys for sticking around with this outrageously long episode if you made it all the way through it. And I will see you guys next time. Later.